Tariffs, taxes on imported goods, have become a defining feature of recent American economic policy, shaping global trade and impacting everything from consumer prices to job markets. They're powerful tools, but their use raises big questions about presidential power and economic consequences. The Supreme Court, as the final interpreter of American law, could dramatically alter trade policy with a single decision, yet it's remained notably silent on the Trump-era tariffs. This silence reflects a tradition of judicial deference to the executive branch on foreign policy and national security, allowing tariffs to persist and even expand under President Biden. Legal battles continue in lower courts, but the Supreme Court's absence is shaping the landscape. In this video, we'll explore the history of these tariffs, why the court hasn't intervened, and how the Biden administration has adapted these tools for its own goals. By understanding the legal framework, economic impacts, and political motivations, we can better grasp the forces shaping American trade today. Let's dive into the complex interplay between presidential trade actions, legal challenges, and the current state of U.S. policy. Modern American tariffs rest on two key laws, Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. Section 301 lets the U.S. Trade Representative respond to unfair foreign trade practices, used by Trump to launch a trade war with China, resulting in tariffs on hundreds of billions in Chinese goods. Section 232 allows the president to impose tariffs for national security reasons, as seen in the 2018 steel and aluminum tariffs that hit even close allies. These moves were controversial, sparking global disputes and raising costs for U.S. manufacturers and consumers. The tariffs created winners, like domestic metal producers, and losers, such as automakers and appliance manufacturers facing higher input costs. Over time, both laws have been used flexibly, exclusions have come and gone, and some countries have negotiated exemptions or tariff rate quotas. The result is a shift from blanket tariffs to more targeted negotiated trade tools. These laws remain the backbone of America's evolving trade strategy. Understanding them is key to decoding today's tariff landscape. When President Biden took office, many expected a rollback of Trump's aggressive tariffs. Instead, Biden kept most Section 301 and 232 tariffs, repurposing them to fit new strategic goals, especially competition with China, and boosting domestic manufacturing. The 2024 review of Section 301 tariffs didn't remove them. Instead, it increased tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, semiconductors, solar cells, and other key sectors. For steel and aluminum, Biden negotiated tariff rate quotas with allies, easing tensions while maintaining protection for U.S. producers. This bipartisan consensus shows tariffs are now seen as tools for shaping supply chains and encouraging investment in critical technologies. The focus has shifted from punishing unfair trade to actively managing economic competition. This continuity signals a lasting, assertive trade stance, regardless of who's in the White House. Tariffs are here to stay as a central part of U.S. economic strategy. You'd think sweeping tariffs would prompt Supreme Court intervention, but the court has consistently declined to review the Trump-era tariffs. The key legal question, do Section 232 and 301 give the president too much unchecked power? In 2019, the court refused to hear a major challenge to Section 232, signaling reluctance to second-guess the executive on national security and foreign affairs. This judicial deference isn't new. Courts have long given presidents leeway in foreign policy. As a result, legal barriers to overturning tariffs remain high, and the executive branch's authority is effectively shielded. The Supreme Court's inaction has empowered both Trump and Biden to use tariffs assertively. By letting lower court decisions stand, the court has endorsed broad presidential power in trade. The real story is the court's silence, and its impact on the balance of power. With the Supreme Court on the sidelines, legal battles over tariffs have shifted to specialized courts like the U.S. Court of International Trade. Lawsuits now focus on technical issues, whether the administration followed proper procedures or overstepped its authority in expanding tariffs. A major fight centers on the expansion of Section 301 tariffs against China, with plaintiffs arguing the government didn't follow required timelines or respond to public comments. Businesses have also challenged the denial of tariff exclusions, claiming the process was arbitrary and lacked transparency. These cases matter. A ruling against the government could force billions in tariff refunds, impacting both policy and the bottom line for thousands of companies. While not dismantling the entire tariff regime, lower court decisions could reshape how tariffs are implemented. The slow progress of these cases keeps uncertainty alive for businesses and policymakers. U.S. trade policy has evolved from simple tariffs to a broader strategy called friendshoring, encouraging companies to move supply chains to trusted allies instead of geopolitical rivals like China. The pandemic and global tensions exposed the risks of relying on single-country supply chains for critical goods. The Biden administration now uses a mix of tariffs, incentives, and diplomatic deals to diversify supply chains and strengthen economic ties with allies. Section 301 tariffs on Chinese goods, especially in tech sectors, push companies to seek alternatives in countries like Mexico, Vietnam, and India. Tariff rate quotas with allies reinforce partnerships and signal that trade with friends is favored. Domestic laws like the CHIPS Act and Inflation Reduction Act further support this shift, offering subsidies for key industries. The result? A move away from pure free trade toward managed trade, where resilience and security matter as much as efficiency. Friendshoring is now central to America's economic playbook. Tariffs have created a new reality for American businesses and workers. Domestic steel and aluminum producers have benefited, but most manufacturers face higher costs, squeezing profits or raising prices for consumers. Some jobs are protected, but others, especially in downstream industries, are at risk due to reduced competitiveness. Retaliatory tariffs from other countries, especially China, have hurt U.S. exporters like farmers, causing pain in rural communities. Globally, tariffs have accelerated the decoupling of U.S. and Chinese supply chains, creating opportunities for countries like Vietnam and Mexico. Allies initially hit by tariffs have negotiated quotas, but tensions remain. The result: global trade flows are shifting and risk calculations are more complex. Consumers feel the impact in higher prices, while the political benefits of protectionism remain visible. Tariffs' mixed effects help explain their continued political appeal despite economic trade-offs. Looking ahead, U.S. trade policy is likely to stay focused on strategic competition and domestic resilience, not a return to broad free trade. Bipartisan consensus on a tough China stance means Section 301 tariffs are here to stay. The real debate is about how to use tariffs more strategically, not whether to use them at all. The executive branch will keep driving trade policy, as the Supreme Court's silence leaves Congress as the only real check. And Congress shows little appetite for change. Major shifts could come from economic shocks, geopolitical crises, or lower court rulings forcing tariff refunds. For now, tariffs reflect a fundamental shift in America's global economic strategy, managing risk and leveraging power. Businesses, workers, and partners must adapt to this new unpredictable era where the president remains the central player in trade policy.